you tired of brands marketing at you like you're a computer, not a human? We believe there's more to this business than worshiping at the feet of the algorithm. We're three marketers, Matt Banker, Paige Worthy, and David Hepburn. Marketing can be empathetic, ethical, and effective, all at once. I am a fighter! This is Hello First Name, a marketing podcast for thinking, feeling humans.
Hello, dear listeners. Welcome to Hello First Name, the marketing podcast for thinking, feeling humans. I am Paige Worthy, and I do marketing strategy, messaging, and copywriting for businesses that give a shit.
And I'm Matt Banker. I do marketing and messaging for those other types of companies that don't give a shit and really are just after money. No, just kidding.
No, really.
I work mostly with accounting firms. I have two agencies. We do marketing for accounting firms, and another one that does story-branded website design.
Excellent. Before we dive in, you can find all of our episodes, including YouTube recordings and transcripts in English and Spanish, because we're all about accessibility, and subscribe for show email updates on our website, hellofirstnamepod.com. As you might be able to hear, we are down a man this week. David, who normally runs all of the producer tasks for the podcast, is gallivanting around on a client shoot, so we are shooting from the hip this week. And our topic this week is LinkedIn cold outreach and how to be more effective. And we came up with this topic because of a post that Matt wrote on his own LinkedIn about how LinkedIn's primary business model appears to be allowing folks to bypass people's messaging spam filters. So, Matt, I wonder if you can talk a little bit about what made you write this post and kind of where you're coming from.
Well, LinkedIn makes a ton of sense. It's actually a great platform. It makes so much sense for business.
Oh, yeah.
For me specifically, I'm very much in the B2B side of marketing. I'm looking to work with other companies. I have a business that works with businesses. And also most of my clients are businesses that work with businesses. So it's not this, we're not selling products. We're not direct to consumer. LinkedIn is the perfect place to be for me and for my clients.
Agreed.
But by far, the worst thing about LinkedIn, in my opinion, is the cold spam inbox messages that you get in LinkedIn.
Can confirm.
Right. And LinkedIn, I mean, we all understand ads, right? We're spending money we on ads. It shows up in the feed. It's part of the deal, right?
Yep.
The other thing about LinkedIn as a platform is that they've monetized the DM, right? And so you can pay money to be able to reach out to people that you wouldn't normally reach out to, or reach out in mass to a lot of people with these cold DMs. And sometimes it's like an in-mail where it's basically a sales pitch directly, but a lot of times it's a DM from another person, and it's going to turn around and just be a sales pitch for you, right? And so the fact, though, that LinkedIn has decided to really let people get into your inbox by paying them a little bit of money, I have some worries about LinkedIn as a platform that's going to be the thing that could potentially drive people away from it, or causes some people to not use it effectively. And especially causes people to ignore their inbox, which is bad for the rest of us who do want to use LinkedIn to network and connect and grow our connections within LinkedIn in a good way. And so I don't know. I'm a little bit annoyed about LinkedIn.
I think it's important to pause here and let people know, like, it's great to use LinkedIn for your business. Like, that's what it's there for. Find your people, connect with your people, sell to your people. There are so many great reasons to continue using LinkedIn, but there are right ways and there are wrong ways.
Yeah.
And
let's keep LinkedIn that way. Actually, I'd rather it be about business and selling. We don't need the we don't need to become Facebook or Twitter
Yeah.
in our like political
God,
commentary.
please
on
let us
LinkedIn.
not. And so, because you mentioned that, I believe that there is a place for some discourse around
Mhm.
current events, because the personal is political, the personal is professional, the professional is political in a lot of ways
Mhm.
now. I think that there are some right perspectives and not so right perspectives to share on
Yeah.
LinkedIn, but I follow quite a few DEI
Mhm.
professionals who share a lot and
Mhm.
who get flack for, like, this, this isn't Facebook, or like, this doesn't belong on LinkedIn, and like, well,
Mhm.
that's a whole other conversation for a different time.
Yeah. No, we should have an episode about that at some point. I think the key is LinkedIn. It's a business work platform,
Yes.
right? And so, like, kind of getting back to our topic, is the point is the reason you join is actually so that you can connect with people that you don't know in real life. Like, that is the basis of LinkedIn. You want to connect
Absolutely.
with other professionals, in other industries, or across the world, across your country, whatever it is. And so it's supposed to be about networking and growing your network. And what you don't want, though, is for it to turn into something that's really like a really negative space that ends up being primarily personal. But you also don't want it to turn into something that's so commercialized that every interaction is, you trying to sell me or me trying to sell you. And
It's just
that's
like
my worry.
volleying sales pitches back and forth.
It is. And
I-
the best content that I see out there is the stuff that is about personal growth, or like expanding and understanding business strategy and tactics and things like that. And the worst is the stuff that's either really salesy, or the stuff that is, it's not trying to start a conversation. It's just trying to, I don't know, like clout chasing, I guess, is kind of the word that gets thrown out there.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, there's also a lot of derivative stuff that, like, I have seen posts stolen verbatim from folks who, have an original thought, and then it gets carbon copied directly onto somebody else's thing. So there's also room for an episode about plagiarism, but that's that's not it. So Matt, I wonder if you could, I think you and I use LinkedIn in two different ways. You're also using it in the same way that I am, but maybe
there's overlap.
There is overlap. Our Venn diagram is actually, you're like a piranha, and my little circle is inside the piranha's mouth. So talk a little bit about, you're using Sales Navigator, right?
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about how you're using that.
Yeah. So I use Sales Navigator, and I use LinkedIn ads for myself and for clients. The great thing about LinkedIn, so this is one of the things that I like about it as a platform, is that you are putting information publicly into LinkedIn, like your job title, the industry you're in, your company size, company revenue. All of these things are given to LinkedIn on purpose, right? And so when you do LinkedIn Navigator, Sales Navigator, or the ads, you can target individuals based on those criteria that they have freely given. And this is different than what Facebook does, which is develop this secret dossier about your internet usage
Based
and
on
then
your
serve you
behavior.
ads based on your behavior, right? So it is a thing. It's a little bit more transparent and
little bit
direct.
less
You
creepy.
know that you're getting. Yeah, I think it's a great. I that's the thing I love about the LinkedIn targeting. And so I will use Sales Navigator to identify an audience, and I have a pretty narrow niche of who I work
Right.
with and who I'm wanting to grow my network with, and that's accounting firm owners who are of a certain size and who have a big enough business that they could potentially afford the services that I have. But I'm not using Sales Navigator to then pitch them to sell them on my services. So my goal is generally to increase my connections with my ideal customer. And then I want them to be able to see content that I'm posting in my feed, and for them to find that to be beneficial, and for them to to see, basically to develop trust over time. But I am intentionally using it as a way to connect with my ideal audience.
Yeah.
And so,
but once
yeah,
you
go ahead.
have connected with these folks, the hope is that the development of a relationship can be super organic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Navigator
Yeah.
helps you find the people and gives you an in to connect, but then it's kind of up to you to actually build that relationship based on a shared interest.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there are some people who can do pretty well, where they share knowledge or information in the DM. I don't typically do that. Actually, I use a simple message that is just, I'd like to add you to my network. If they're interested, they'll connect. Usually they'll click on my profile and they'll see if I'm in the same space. Now I know my acceptance rates are down from what I'd like them to be because everyone else that I get DMs from follows up that sort of message or any sort of message with a, hey, can we
Hey,
book
buy
a
my
quick
stuff.
call, or
Let's talk.
I'd really like to partner with
Yep.
you, something like that. And I don't think that you should do that because not because it's just like a bad way to be a human, which I sort of think it is, but maybe I think there are some
I'm with
probably
you.
I'm sure there are some cold outreach people who disagree with me and who do a good job of this, but I want them to see good content and I don't want them to feel pressured. I don't really believe that that's a very effective way for me to get calls. And also the last thing I want is to get on a sales call where I have to convince them that I'm
Absolutely.
trustworthy. Like I want that to be, I think of it as the difference between farming and hunting, right? Like I want to farm those relationships,
Yep.
which are going to take a long time. But over time, it's a little bit more predictable than if you're, going out and trying to find a sale, like you're hunting.
Well, and I think it's that whole inbound concept. Like I know that you're doing outbound outreach, but the goal eventually is to put enough information in front of people that's useful to them that they're eventually going to realize like, oh, I absolutely have to have a call with this person because they have the knowledge I need. They have the solution that's going to, get at my pain points. And that's, the farming part of it. Like you plant a seed and something grows out of it. I think that's great.
So I think of LinkedIn Sales Navigator as the planting seeds. And there's some tactical things. If you're going to do this, you do pay for a Sales Navigator account. Generally,
How much does that cost a month?
That's a good question. I don't remember. I think it's like $80 a month. So it's not the cheapest investment if you're kind of a solo person. But if you're a larger organization, it makes sense. A couple things I'd say. I think it makes a lot more sense for me as the business owner to be reaching out and connecting with people than for it to be like a junior salesperson doing that. Two reasons. One, credibility. They're less likely to accept. And two, when you think about, I want them to connect with me and then see my content, a junior salesperson doesn't have the insight and knowledge to be posting on LinkedIn with that sort of valuable stuff as well, which is sort of the other point. If you're going to use DMs as a way to grow your audience, you also need to be active on LinkedIn outside of DMs. You need to be, posting valuable information and not, it's not just inspirational quotes. You should have something to say. I'm a big believer in LinkedIn as a platform, but you got to use it holistically for it to be effective and for it to be used correctly.
Yeah, I agree. So that's a really good tip for, doing this right. So consistently sharing that valuable content before you start building a presence where you're connecting with people and trying to plant seeds. Like if, I don't know, I guess if the soil you're planting your seed in isn't rife with nutrients, nothing's going to grow. I don't know. We could take this metaphor as far as we want to. I think that makes perfect sense. I'm working with a client right now who has a fully B2B audience. They work in the diversity, equity, and inclusion space, and all the people that they would want to connect with are using LinkedIn. And they were like, yeah, we want to do some LinkedIn advertising. Like we really want to start working our network there. And I have a couple of times, we haven't gotten to this point in our ongoing relationship to be at this point, but really stepping back and thinking like, okay, how do we want to show up on LinkedIn? How can we create value? How can we signal boost and amplify the voices of people who are already making a big investment in sharing DEI content? And then how can we create some good value that differentiates us from all of that? There's a lot of, I'm not going to call it any of it noise, but there are a lot of voices adding to the conversation right now about DEI. So I happen to think my client has a really distinct offering and a lot that they could bring. But you have to be really conscious of what that is and figure out, okay, how are we going to flesh this out? So definitely a long game where that's concerned.
It is.
LinkedIn is not an instant gratification platform, any way you slice it.
And I don't think any social media platform really is. I am by no means a cold outbound outreach expert. That's not. I didn't come up through sales. I'm a marketing guy. If you really want a great 1-2 punch with LinkedIn as far as content, combining, if you set the same criteria for your Sales Navigator where you're connecting with this audience, and then you use ads. Now, I like to use ads, especially on LinkedIn, not as a like, here's an ebook that you can download and get onto our email list, or here's a, book a demo, that kind of stuff. What I like to do is think of it as a way to guarantee distribution to the right people.
Okay, so like are you boosting content rather than putting an offer out there?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So if you think about it, you're connecting with people who are your ideal customer, and then you're using ads to make sure that they see the best content that you've created, the stuff that's gotten good engagement in the past. And again, it's not a hard sales. It's to build that credibility and trust over time. And you can do all kinds of things with retargeting. So, if someone does click on a link or interact with that ad, you can then send them stuff that is a little bit more like, hey, here's what I do. If you're interested, book a call. But initially, I'm using those 2 targeting channels as a way to connect with the right people organically, posting organically, getting signals about what kind of content resonates with my audience, and then using paid to guarantee that good content gets in front of more people. And then that's going to build credibility and multiple touch points over time. And it's still an inbound strategy. The goal is not to like get the click through and book a call as much as it is to raise awareness, grow, your audience and awareness and trust with people over time.
I love that. Okay, so we're keeping things short and sweet today. Let's talk a little bit about some other beyond Sales Navigator. Like if someone's not ready to invest in a paid product from LinkedIn yet. We've talked about doing good content. Writing good content, adding value. I would also say, and I may be biased, but bring a unique perspective. Have a point of view when you're posting.
100%.
For me, in using LinkedIn, self-selection and self-qualification are really important to me. So I want just as much for people to, see my content and realize like, oh, she's a little much for me. Like I would much rather have someone come to that realization on their own before we have a conversation that this is not the right type of relationship for me. Great.
Yeah. Don't
be afraid of that. If you are planting a seed and you are a wildflower and somebody is expecting a, beautifully performing rose, better that they should say, I'm tired of this metaphor fully, by the way. Well, I am hereby ending the gardening farming metaphor.
So I have a background, actually, I studied conceptual installation art in college. That's what my degree is in. I like to tell people if you've gone into a a modern art museum and you see something that makes you a little bit angry and makes you think that all art must be a joke, that artists are playing on the public and getting paid, millions of dollars. That's the type of stuff that I studied and created in college.
That's kind of my favorite stuff.
Oh, I think it's great. But part of the point is, if you go into an art museum and it makes you a little bit angry, that's better than just like brushing past it and not paying attention at all.
Yep.
Like the goal of, we can say content, of art, of creating things. You want something that does arrest people's, you want to arrest their attention. We have a mantra at Banker Creative. Sometimes we say, different is better than better. Like having a point of view and being able to stand out is gonna be better. You're not gonna maybe connect with everyone, but you're going to connect with the right people if you are distinctive. And so that's a good goal to have.
Different is better than better. I like that.
Yes.
I like that. Yeah. Let's see. I'm looking at my notes here. I'm actually interested in what you described your Sales Navigator approach as. And you said, it sounds like when you send the invitation, you're essentially just saying like, hi, I want to connect. That's
pretty much it.
Do you personalize at all?
I was personalizing for a while. One of the challenges with Sales Navigator and with some of these other things is it can be hard to identify who's actually active on LinkedIn. There are a lot of people who create a profile and then just disappear. And there's a lot of people who have very little. They might be on LinkedIn pretty regularly, but they've done very little to cultivate their own profile. And so when it comes to personalization, you may not know. They may have never posted. You might not know anything about what they're interested in, but they might be a lurker. They're scrolling through LinkedIn, reading things. So I decided at some point to just keep it short and sweet. I had a template outreach, paragraph. You have a character limit if you're not using the InMail connection. That was, hey, I'm Matt Banker. I'm in the accounting, or I do marketing for accounting firms. This is not a sales pitch. I just hope that we could connect and add value to each other's feeds. Yeah. So I've used that version of outreach before, and I've just used the, hey, I'd like to add you to the network. I haven't seen a massive difference in terms of the acceptance rate.
Maybe like the people who are going to accept regardless.
That's kind of what I've decided. One thing that I do is I go through my outreach requests. You can do this in your network tab in LinkedIn and remove, or what is it, rescind a request that's over 3 weeks old that hasn't been accepted.
Oh, interesting.
And that can actually increase, like if you have too many outbound requests that don't get accepted, LinkedIn will start penalizing you, I think, in the
throttle
feed.
You.
Yeah. And it makes sense, right? If you're just sending out, lots and lots of requests and no one wants to hear from you, their algorithm is saying, yeah, this person's not so important and they're not a great, not a great value.
Unscrupulous connection carpet bomber.
Yeah.
Well, at least there's some degree of gatekeeping, or at least gate watching on LinkedIn's part. There's a bit of that. Speaking to template use, templates can be great, right?
Yes.
But we all know the name of our podcast, Hello First Name. My God, check your templates. If you are going to send anything templated, just give it a quick look. Like it's already made your life a little bit easier. So just have a peek. Look for and if you're going to use a template, put like big fat brackets or asterisks or something that's like, hey, dummy,
replace this.
Replace me. Cause that's a bad look. Like nobody likes getting an email or a message that's addressed to. I get so many emails to Patricia. It's just not even funny. It's not even funny. It's kind of funny.
I know I've sent out an email before where it was Brian, Dale, and then the message, because I copied and pasted in the wrong thing, and it's not a good look.
The best of us.
It does. Yeah.
And,
I think templates.
I think if you screw it up, there's there's room for a mea culpa that could open the door to, a funny, haha moment that actually ends in you connecting with someone and proving to them that you actually do have something to say.
Yeah. Well, maybe just as we kind of wrap up here as a recap. So LinkedIn is pretty good for business and networking. It is okay, I think, my opinion, to connect with and expand, like to use DMs and the stuff to expand your audience. Absolutely. And I think it's the right way to use LinkedIn. I don't think that you should push for a sale in DMs. I think trying to book a call is generally not the best. I get more annoyed the more messages I get from someone like,
Correct.
Hey, not sure if you saw my message. I don't quite get to the point where I'm always like removing the request, but if someone does annoy me with a couple, I might go through the process of actually getting them off of my connections, because I just don't.
I'll do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
I'm sure that surprises no one. But I'm very, very fastidious in curating my feed.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for us to know who our people are on LinkedIn. Somebody on LinkedIn a couple weeks ago left a comment that wasn't okay, and I like shame tagged a couple of their connections and was like, "Hey, gather your people." And one of the women who I tagged was like, "Oh, well, yeah, this would, I'm kind of over this guy, but for me, LinkedIn connections don't equal endorsements." I'm like, "Well, why not? Like, what does that say about the professional company you keep?" Like, I don't know. So anyway, I have no qualms about calling the herd.
Yeah. For me, it's mostly a time consuming thing. Is it worth going through the time? I wish there was an easier way actually to just remove connections.
Me too.
It's not the quickest thing.
Hey, LinkedIn, are you listening? Please make it easier to strike people from the record.
It'd be great if you could filter around your own connection requests, people who have not posted in whatever time, just to be able to see who's worth being connected to. Because I think a lot of LinkedIn accounts are, especially these DM accounts, are just set up as a way to like do outbound sales, and then that person gets a different job and they don't use it anymore. I mean, again, LinkedIn can be pretty good. It's a place that if you're going to be there, I would say you should be active in multiple areas. That's kind of the, not just DMs. You need to be posting content and
absolutely,
and being, interacting with other people's content. One thing I'll say is if you're not going to do Sales Navigator and you want to try to figure out who you should network with, a tip that I would give is, now it's a lot easier. I actually think I can use LinkedIn as a connection, like an outbound connection tool more easily than you can, Paige,
because you have a niche.
I have a narrow target market. So if you have a niche, what I would say is find the conferences that the people in your market are going to, and then you find the keynote speakers at those conferences, and you follow those people, and then look in the comment threads as ways to find the people who are in your market. So that's a good way, just organically, to find them.
They don't seem to have conferences yet for businesses that give a shit. I'm still waiting.
Maybe you got to run that conference. I feel like there are a lot of businesses that self-identify in that way, like business owners, founders who want to think of themselves that way. But it's not hasn't consolidated into a market that you can buy a list for.
people define shit giving in a lot of different ways. So it's tough.
Yeah,
but I do find my people. I've had some connection requests from a couple of really neat women who saw my headline on LinkedIn and sent me a message literally that said, "I read your headline and I thought, oh my God, I have to connect with this woman. They're great people. They share insightful content." And we have DM'd a little bit, and I have found out about the products that they offer, and they actually seem like they could be a great fit for me. in the future when circumstances dictate. So I am not unsellable. And, you know, I've had a couple of people, I'm on the dark social side of LinkedIn. So I've had a couple of people reach out through my website with the one line free text, how did you find out about me, that said LinkedIn. I really did do that the afternoon that we recorded that podcast. Listen to the Consent in Marketing episode 1, if you want to know more about that. But yeah, I used to be super anti-LinkedIn. I just thought it was forever upholding the bro code, and there was nothing good happening there. It was just like people selling, blah, blah, blah. And once I started finding my people and figuring out what I wanted to say and getting kind of algorithmically connected with other people who share that kind of content, it's been fantastic. So if you find that you're turning your nose up at LinkedIn or the idea of using LinkedIn for selling or growing your business, like, take a step back and think about, like, okay, how are you using it? Is there a way that you can create a more constructive presence or find more stuff that aligns with who you are and how you want to show up as a business? Like, it's not a one size fits all in any way. So that's my parting shot.
Are you more likely, if you see someone whose content you think is really great, are you more likely to follow them or make a connection request?
It depends. For people who, you know, whose stuff is going viral, no, I'm not gonna try to connect, but I have, you know, connected with people within the comments sections who have had really incisive things to say, and those have led to really good conversations. So I agree that, you know, the big deal folks can be a really good source for, you know, potential, I don't know, fertilizer. I can't.
Yeah.
I can't.
We'll have to map this out in an infographic.
I'm sure somebody can do that.
So.
Maybe it'll make as much sense as the StoryBrand airplane. Maybe. We should be so lucky. All right, more about that later too.
Should we leave it there?
Let's leave it there. All right, well, until next time when we are back to being 3, this has been Hello First Name, the marketing podcast for thinking, feeling humans. You can find us at hellofirstnamepod.com. You can also find Matt and me and David on LinkedIn if you want to see us practice what we're preaching. And I'm Paige.
I'm Matt.
See you later.
I am